Imagine a reservoir, deep and brimming with life-giving water. This reservoir is your psychic energy, the inner force that fuels your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Every day you draw from this reservoir to navigate life's demands. A heated argument, a friend's crisis, a colleague's subtle jab. But what happens when the reservoir runs dry? You feel depleted, reactive, and vulnerable. Worse, others notice, and some exploit it. We live in a world that thrives on your availability. People expect quick responses, emotional support, or your time, often without considering the cost to you. When you set boundaries, say no, or refuse to react, something curious happens. The same people who leaned on you get irritated. They accuse you of being distant, cold, or changed. Why? Because you've stopped being functional for them. Your value to them was tied to your accessibility. The moment you reclaim your energy, you disrupt their narrative, and that's when the truth emerges. The more available you are, the less others value you. It's a harsh reality, rooted in human psychology. What's abundant becomes disposable. An emotional rag, always there to soak up others' needs, loses its worth. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of the psyche, warned that our energy is finite. If you don't guard it, someone else will claim it. So, pause and ask, who truly deserves your time, attention, or presence? More critically, who deserves your absence? To answer these questions, we must first understand why we give in so easily. Why do we feel compelled to respond, justify, or please, even when it drains us? The answer lies in Jung's concept of psychic energy, the lifeblood of your mental and emotional well-being. In this journey, we'll explore how to protect this energy, why your reactions make you vulnerable to manipulation, and how silence and unavailability can become your greatest strengths. By the end, you'll have practical tools to reclaim your power and choose who and what deserves your soul's investment. Part 1. Psychic energy, your most precious resource. The energy of the psyche. Carl Jung saw the human psyche not as a machine that reacts automatically, but as a dynamic energy system. Every thought, emotion, and action consumes a portion of this psychic energy. Picture it like a battery. Each interaction, whether a fleeting worry or a heated debate, draws power. When you react impulsively, defending yourself against baseless criticism, engaging in pointless arguments, or pleasing those who don't reciprocate, you're draining your battery faster than it can recharge. Jung's insight was revolutionary because it framed our mental and emotional capacity as finite. You can't pour endlessly from an empty cup. Yet, how often do you find yourself reacting without thinking? Maybe it's a snide comment from a coworker that keeps you up at night, replaying what you should have said. Or perhaps it's the friend who calls only when they need you, leaving you emotionally spent. These are energy leaks, siphoning your vitality into cycles that don't nourish you. Consider Sarah, a young professional who prided herself on being there for everyone. She answered every late-night call from her friend Emma, who always had a crisis. She stayed late at work to fix her team's mistakes. Even when unacknowledged, she absorbed her family's complaints without protest. Over time, Sarah felt exhausted, irritable, and disconnected from herself. She wasn't weak, she was misdirected. Her energy was scattered across others' demands, leaving none for her own growth. The consequences of energy mismanagement. Jung was clear: what you resist persists, the more you react to provocations, the more you bind yourself to draining dynamics. Every time you engage in a pointless debate or try to prove yourself to someone who doesn't care, you're feeding a cycle that depletes you. This isn't just tiring, it's dangerous. Emotional exhaustion makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability attracts opportunists. Manipulative or emotionally needy people have a sixth sense for this. They notice when you can't say no, when you're always trying to fix things, when your energy is unguarded. They don't need to force you, they just push your triggers and you react predictably. Think about it. How many times have you lost sleep over an unresolved argument? How often have you ruminated on why someone treated you poorly? These are ghosts you keep alive by reacting, draining your psychic energy without return. A healthy psyche, Jung argued, conserves energy within the system. This means knowing when to say no without guilt, when to stay silent without feeling cowardly, and when to observe before acting. True power lies not in reacting, but in choosing when and how to engage. This choice requires self-awareness, a deep understanding of your impulses and triggers. Exercise. Identify your energy leaks. To start protecting your psychic energy, you need to identify where it's leaking. Try this exercise. Track your reactions. For 1 week, keep a journal of moments when you feel drained. Note the situation, who was involved, and how you reacted. Was it an argument, a favor you couldn't refuse, a criticism you took personally? Spot the triggers. Look for patterns. What makes you react automatically? Is it guilt, fear of rejection, or the need to prove yourself? These are your energy leaks. Pause and reflect. Next time you feel triggered, pause for 10 seconds. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will reacting serve me? This small act of mindfulness can save you hours of rumination. By observing your triggers, you begin to see where your energy escapes. This awareness is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Part 2. The trap of projection and manipulation. The mechanics of projection. You might think your reactions are conscious choices, but many are programmed by years of conditioning. Opportunistic people exploit this, often without raising their voice or making overt demands. They simply press your exposed buttons, guilt, fear, or the need to be liked, and you respond. Jung called this projection a psychological mechanism where people cast their unresolved issues onto others. Projection works both ways. While others project their insecurities or needs onto you, you become a receptacle for their expectations. The more emotionally available you are, the more you become a blank canvas for their projections. Think of that friend who only calls when they're in crisis, or the partner who expects you to solve their problems. They're not relating to you. They're relating to the role you play, the fixer, the listener, the savior. Take Mark, a devoted husband who always put his wife's needs first. She relied on him to manage her emotional ups and downs, calling him her rock. But when Mark started setting boundaries, saying he needed time for his own hobbies, she accused him of being selfish. Her reaction wasn't about Mark's worth. It was about her reliance on his constant availability. He was no longer playing the role she'd assigned him. Why you comply? Why do we fall into these roles? Fear of disappointing others, of not being loved, of being abandoned. These fears are deeply rooted, often tracing back to childhood or past relationships where approval was tied to self-sacrifice. Manipulators thrive on this, using subtle guilt to keep you in line. They don't need to control you overtly, they just need you to keep reacting predictably. The most effective manipulation happens in silence, in the weight of unspoken expectations. You feel you owe something. To be understanding, to help, to stay available, even when it erodes your well-being. This dynamic is insidious because it feels like loyalty or kindness, but it's a trap. The manipulator doesn't need to win arguments. They just need you to keep playing their game. Breaking the cycle. The antidote? Stop reacting. Say no. Respond with silence. Withdraw without explaining. When you do, the projections crumble. The manipulator loses their grip because you're no longer a mirror for their needs. This shift unsettles them, forcing them to face their own unresolved issues, a mirror they've avoided. But this comes with resistance. When you stop being available, expect pushback, accusations, drama, or criticism. They'll call you cold, distant, or changed. This isn't because you're wrong, it's because you've stopped serving their narrative. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your unavailability forces others to confront their own shadows, and not everyone is ready for that. Exercise. Deflect projections. To break free from others' projections, try this. Identify the role. Reflect on a relationship where you feel drained. What role are you playing? The rescuer, the peacemaker, the validator? Test silence. Next time you're triggered, don't respond immediately. Instead, observe. What does the other person do when you don't engage? Do they escalate, guilt trip, or back off? Set one boundary. Practice saying no in a small way. For example, "I can't talk right now, but let's connect later." Notice how it feels and how they react. Your silence disrupts their game, revealing who values you versus who values your utility. Part 3. The power of silence. Silence as presence. In a world obsessed with noise, quick replies, endless debates, and performative outrage, silence is a radical act. Not passive or cowardly silence, but conscious, strategic silence. Jung saw silence not as a void, but as fertile ground for transformation. When you stop reacting, you start observing. You see patterns, manipulation tactics, emotional traps, your own self-sabotage. Silence breeds lucidity, and lucidity is a threat to those who thrive on your chaos. Consider Anna, a manager who was constantly drawn into office drama. Her team expected her to mediate every conflict, even trivial ones. When she started responding with silence, listening without jumping in, she noticed something. The drama fizzled out. Her team began resolving issues themselves. Her silence wasn't absence, it was amplified presence, forcing others to take responsibility. Why silence unnerves? Silence unnerves manipulators because it takes away their narrative control. When you don't respond, explain, or justify, you rewrite the rules. They panic, not because they miss you, but because your silence exposes their dependence on your reactions. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming your true self, requires this distance. Only in silence can you hear your own voice, free from the world's demands. But silence has a cost. It may alienate those who valued your accessibility, not your depth. They'll label you cold, arrogant, or distant. These are projections, revealing their discomfort with your sovereignty. The more you mature, the more selective you become with your words. Every sentence is an energetic investment. Not everyone deserves your truth. The discipline of silence. True silence is mastery over your energy. It's refusing to be dragged into battles that don't serve you. It's choosing peace over chaos, even when it feels uncomfortable. Jung said individuation requires distancing from the collective, shedding the masks others impose. Silence is the tool for this. It's not retreat, it's sovereignty. Exercise, practice, strategic silence. To harness silence, try this. Choose one. Trigger. Pick a situation where you typically react impulsively, e.g., a critical email, a provocative text. Commit to not responding for 24 hours. Observe the urge. Notice the urge to react. Journal what comes up. Guilt, fear, anger. This is your conditioning surfacing. Reflect on the outcome. After 24 hours, assess. Did the situation resolve itself? Did the other person's behavior shift? How did silence feel? Silence reveals more about others than arguments ever could. It's the language of those who no longer need to prove themselves. Part 4. Conscious unavailability, the foundation of self-determination. Redefining availability. Being unavailable isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about being selective. It's about guarding your energy, time, and peace. In a culture that glorifies constant availability, choosing when and how to engage is revolutionary. It starts with small acts, not answering every message instantly, breathing before reacting, saying, "Not today," or "I'm not interested," without guilt. Jung understood that individuation requires sacred isolation, a retreat to reconnect with your essence. This isn't depressive loneliness, but a deliberate choice to prioritize your inner world. When you say no to external demands, you say yes to yourself. This shift is uncomfortable at first. You'll feel selfish or harsh, conditioned to put others first. But this discomfort is growth. Take Lisa, a single mother who always said yes to her extended family's requests, from hosting dinners to loaning money. When she started saying no, politely but firmly, she faced backlash. Her sister called her ungrateful, her cousins stopped calling. But Lisa noticed something else. She had more energy for her kids, her work, and herself. Her unavailability didn't make her selfish, it made her whole. The power of non-explanation. One of the hardest but most liberating steps is refusing to explain your absence. You don't owe anyone your silence. It speaks for itself. When you stop justifying, you dismantle the emotional narrative that keeps you accessible. Manipulators rely on your explanations to pull you back into their game. By withholding them, you reclaim your power. Notice who reacts when you become reserved, who provokes you when you don't engage, who accuses you of changing when you protect yourself. These are signs you're breaking free from their projections. Your unavailability exposes their reliance on your emotional chaos, and that rupture brings pain, loneliness, estrangement, the sense of loss. But it's not loss, it's liberation. Exercise build emotional discipline. To practice conscious unavailability, set one boundary. Weekly, for example, decline a non-essential request with a simple, "I can't commit to that right now." Don't explain further. Turn off notifications. For one evening, silence your phone or email. Notice how it feels to disconnect without guilt. Evaluate relationships. List the people in your life. Who energizes you? Who drains you? Consider reducing time with those who take more than they give. These small steps build emotional discipline, the foundation of self-determination. Part 5. The rebirth of solitude. The transformation of silence. When you embrace unavailability, silence shifts from discomfort to healing. At first, it feels like a void. You question if you're being too harsh, if you're losing connections. But gradually, this silence cleanses. It calms the chaos, heals old wounds, and restores your energy. This isn't the solitude of absence, but of total presence, the solitude of the strong. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from the collective's expectations. This requires walking alone for a while, shedding the roles others impose. When you stop being available to everyone, you return to yourself. You stop being a reactor and become a creator, shaping your reality from within. The cost and reward of freedom. You'll lose people who valued your utility, not your depth. They'll call you distant or selfish, but this reveals their truth, not yours. You'll distance yourself from toxic spaces and reconnect with your essence. You'll be misunderstood but respected. Your unavailability makes you rare, valuable, unforgettable. Consider James, a writer who spent years chasing approval from his peers. He attended every event, responded to every critique, and tried to please everyone. When he started prioritizing his craft, saying no to distractions, and focusing on his work, he lost some friends. But his writing flourished, and he attracted a new circle who valued his authenticity. His solitude wasn't loss, it was rebirth. What comes next? This is a new beginning. You'll only accept what aligns with your peace, truth, and wholeness. You'll no longer settle for emotional crumbs, mind games, or hollow connections. This path requires courage to be misunderstood, rejected, or even hated for your inner freedom. But the reward is a life where you choose yourself, even if it means standing alone for a while. Exercise. Embrace sacred isolation to cultivate this rebirth. Create a sanctuary, dedicate 30 minutes daily to solitude, no phone, no distractions. Journal, meditate, or simply sit with your thoughts. Define your values. Write down 3 things that matter most to you, e.g., peace, growth, authenticity. Use these as a filter for who and what gets your energy. Celebrate small wins. Each time you set a boundary or choose silence, acknowledge it. This reinforces your sovereignty. This solitude isn't loneliness, it's the foundation of true freedom. Conclusion. Choose your peace. If this resonates, you're ready for a transformation. My book Beyond the Shadow dives deeper into Jung's ideas, offering practical tools to protect your energy, set boundaries, and reconnect with your true self. Check the link in the pinned comment for details. But awareness alone isn't enough. Transformation demands action. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop feeding empty conversations or toxic relationships. Be selective with your soul. Are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, or even hated for your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of being you? Share in the comments. I choose my peace. Let's see how many are ready for this shift. Keep watching the next video. It's more vital than you think. See you there.